So let's get started. Everybody here? One. I'll give a 5-minute recap so we can go straight into the topic. Like I mentioned, it's a series, but each class is a standalone class as well. So the topic we're dealing with in general is faith versus knowledge. I called it perspective change when we first started the course. Okay, let's wait for everybody to be seated. And the first 2 classes we had, we discussed at length the contradiction that we as humans feel between something normal, natural, expected, systemized, makes sense, versus the unknown, versus something people call miracles, something people call belief, something people call Hashem, God. There's a natural contradiction. There's a oxymoron here that we as humans have in grappling with these 2 contradicting themes. We started off in class 1 explaining how not only are they opposites, but they're opposites to the core. It's like asking me to be something I'm not. And that we spoke about at length in class number 1. Class number 2, we explained how if you look within nature, within human nature, we're actually creatures meant to defy nature. If you have 2 kinds of people sitting in front of you, one person who simply follows the rules, and one person who's an innovator, one person who thinks out of the box, who do we as humans feel personifies a human? The one who thinks out of the box. You wouldn't have digital pictures today if we would still be thinking in the box. Someone who has the ability to let go, to not be tied down, to not be systemized. So we started seeing that within human nature, really, we're creatures that want to crawl out of a system. We're really not meant to be systemized. And that was just to give us that was class number 2. That was meant to show us how don't get so stuck up with rules and systems as if you're embedded and that's part of your DNA, and the whole concept of breaking a rule and getting out of a system and somehow defying a system is so unnatural to you. It's actually very natural to you. It's more normal for us to be that kind of person, someone who has a strong desire, someone who's a real human is someone who, I gave an example then, we had like an example of the Navy SEALs, who's the one who builds. The ultimate built human is someone who nothing stands in front of him. Nothing means to say there's no challenge, there's there's no system, there's no rule. I'll defy that rule. I'll show you how I can go beyond that rule. So what we clarified in class number 2 and what we demonstrated is don't get so stuck up and think that you're actually that the concept of breaking rules is so foreign to you. It's actually more part of your DNA than following rules. Humans are meant, I like to use this line, we're creatures meant to defy rules. Animals are creatures stuck into a rule. Humans are creatures meant to defy rules. In Hebrew, there's a phrase, Ein davar oimed b'fnei haratzon, which essentially means we're almost like God. We have also within us that concept of breaking rules, defying rules, the unknown. No system. It doesn't make sense? I'll do it anyway. We have that within us too. And that's really the reason why we seek to become familiar with that territory, because we feel at home with that territory more than we feel at home with the ordinary system. And that's why deep within us we have the strong desire, let me get to know that territory a little bit better, because it's really part of us. This is all simply a human. Humans, every single human has within them that ability. Today, one second.
How would you call that territory?
That territory is the desire of a person. I actually would call it a passion. Desire is too much of a shallow word. Passion of a person. Passion is something, there's nothing that stands in front of the passion of a person. A passion of a person can just destroy every barrier that's in front of you. Passion is our godly human that's within us, the godly spark within nature. So now the question is, what's unique about Jews? And what's belief in God? Is that belief in God simply the human spark? That's what many, you don't have, every human has that. So what's this Jewish thing? What's this Jewish thing? I mean, we're humans. So here what I'm going to do is, I'm going to step back a second, and I'm going to actually counter everything we just said. And what I'd like to do is play the argument that it's impossible to have any kind of relationship with God. And I want to demonstrate that. And logically explain that to the point of that you'll say, so it's impossible to have any relationship with God. So what's this whole story of any relationship with God? And I'll explain it very simply. Yes, we just explained that humans have the ability to do anything. Any obstacle in front of you, you can push. But you know the problem is? Let me illustrate this. A person standing on top of a roof. And they have the ability to jump down. If they want to, if they're passionate enough about the mission of jumping down, they'll do it. Soldiers do it. Trained people do it. If a person's very passionate and they're standing on the floor, can they jump onto the roof? The roof is 100 feet high. You simply can't do it because you're human. Oh, what do you mean you're human? There are certain inherent, I wouldn't call it disabilities, restrictions, but not even restrictions. We're defined. We have a certain definition to us. And that definition is a definition embedded in stone. It's set in stone. You can't take that away. I'm going to give you a few examples where we're going to have that in human nature. And then we'll see, does it make sense to even say the word, have a relationship with Hashem, with God? Let's go through the different limitations we have within human nature. There's a story of a wagon being driven by a bunch of horses. And the horses hear an argument in the wagon. There were a bunch of scholars in the wagon arguing. And the horses are trying to figure out what is going on. What are they arguing about? It's really bothering them because they hear a lot of noises. They just can't understand what's going on in that wagon. One of the smart horses explained to his fellow other horses. He says, I got it. You know what it is? You know at the end of the trip, when we hit the barn, there's like this special hay they give us because it's like a treat for us to go faster, so as to get to our destination. They want to take it away from us. They really know how good that hay is, and they're arguing who's going to be the one to eat that hay. But you know what? We're not going to let them. As soon as we get there, we're going to gobble it up before they get a chance. A horse trying to think how a human thinks, it won't happen. It just simply won't happen. A horse can be a very strong horse. It could be a racing horse. It could be the best horse, but it's a horse. A human can be the ultimate human, but he's human. Humans need to eat, need to sleep. They can't forever go without eating or sleeping. Humans, in the end of the day, need to have some kind of logical explanation where they come, where they go, how they work. 1 + 1 is 2 is 2. But for someone who doesn't need sleep, who created 1 + 1 is 2, which essentially means he's not bound by 1 + 1 is 2, that means he can work by a whole different system of logical explanations, which 1 + 1 is 3, hypothetically. Because he created 1 + 1 is 2. You want me to relate to him? Imagine you go into China, you don't speak Chinese. Can you talk to the Chinese people? Well, you could because you're human, so you have some kind of, but you have a barrier. Imagine you have a huge barrier. The DNA, you can't. It's like a horse and a human. You've got a huge gap here. The whole concept of saying, I'm serving God, doesn't make sense. Imagine the horse says, I really want to do a favor for these people in the wagon. I really like them. They're so nice to me. I'm going to bring them tomorrow the hay. I want to show my appreciation. I really, it's so many years that they're helping us out. You're a horse. What do you understand about humans? You think I care for your hay? Who are you to think that you know what I want? You really think you understand me? It's ridiculous. It doesn't begin to make sense. You don't even have to go so far as a horse. Even in human relationships, we have that problem. They say the story of the husband comes home and gives his wife a birthday present, big box. I don't know what's in this big box. He's a professional drummer. He loves drums. She opens the box and she sees top of the art drum, top latest drum. She looks at him like he fell from the drum set, fell from Mars. What's up? This is the best one. You don't understand. I mean, you couldn't get a better one in the market. I paid thousands of dollars for this drum set. I had an overnight FedEx because I just saw it and it just came out the day before. Do you know how much effort I put in getting this for you and you don't even appreciate this? Hello, you're a drummer. Go back to the drums. And then you'll talk to me when you want to talk to me. You're talking to drums. Get to know me. We have that problem all the time. So you're going to tell me that you now understand Hashem when you don't even get to understand another person? Where do you begin from? What do you know about Hashem? What do you know about God? Oh, God wants peace. You like peace, so you're saying he likes peace. Oh, God, he wants justice. For you, justice is the nicest thing. You're like the horse with the hay and you're like the drummer, so you say God likes justice. Good for you. You like justice. You like peace. You like the hay. You like the drums. What does it have to do with God? Who told you he likes that? Maybe he likes to sleep. I don't know. How do you know what he likes? He told you? What makes you think you know him? What makes you think you know what he wants, what he likes? Do you even understand? Do you even have some kind of common friends? I mean, do you know where he comes from? Did you look at his resume? I mean, where'd you get to know him? You met him in the bar? Where'd you get to know him? It's ridiculous. It doesn't make sense. The whole notion of having a relationship, having some kind of idea, I'm serving. How many times do we hear I'm serving God? What does that mean? Anybody have any answer to this question? This has ever occurred to anybody, this question? What does it mean when anybody's going to come along and say, I'm serving God. I know what God wants. What does that mean? Anybody else? Any other suggestions? How do I? What makes me have any kind of relationship with something that I have no concept? Has a question that ever occurred to anybody? Yeah, came. Ever thought of this question? Resonate with you a little bit? Yes? If you look it's very interesting. If you look at the terminology we use in English, not in Jewish. It's used in the Jewish language as well, but it's inaccurate. We use the term serve God. Why do we use the term serve God? You know why? Because people have a hard time understanding what it means relationship with God. So the best term they can use is serve. Why serve? Because serve means I don't know him. I can just do what he wants. That's what it means. Serve means it's like a servant. I don't understand the master. I'm just going to, okay, whatever you want. I don't know how I got to know what he wants, but whatever you want, I'll do, but I have no connection. That's really what the word serve means. Serve means there's an absence of feelings. Serve means it's action-oriented, performance-oriented. Serve means it's not really me. That's a very big problem.
Can't you have the feeling?
That's the question. What kind of feeling?
You can't fathom or understand or even comprehend him or know what he wants, but
How can we have a feeling towards him if we don't really know him? In other words, the drummer had a feeling towards his wife when he gave that drum set?
yeah.
Oh, 1 second.
Okay.
As humans. That's what I'm trying to build up. I'm building up to what is unique in a Jew. As a human, can a human have a feeling to God? A human. How can a human have a feeling to God?
He has to because he has part of God in him.
So I'll word it this way. The best feeling of God a human can have is to be a human. God created a human. He didn't create God. The best you can be is a good human. And that is the godly spark within humans. To be a good human. A horse can be the ultimate horse. A human can be the ultimate human. To be a godly human means to fulfill the purpose of why humans were created. Humans were created to be humans. Period. They were not created to be God. Humans were created to be humans, to be good. What does it mean to be a human? It means not to be an animal. Well, many humans are animals. It takes a lot to be a human. So what can a human do? A human can simply be a human. What are they? There's basically 7 different codes of how a human can be a human. Don't steal, having a normal relationship. To be a human. 7 Noah laws. Those are what makes the ultimate human. Part of that is also recognizing that you were created because humans were created. And that's part of being a human, knowing that you were created. So you recognize there's a creator, fine. Doesn't mean you have a relationship with him. You're a human. And the spark of God that we say that's within nature means to say the spark of a human. To be a good human. Peace, justice, these are all qualities within humans. And that is what humans are supposed to have. In other words, there's a spark within the human race, which is the purpose of the human race, that we aspire to be. And all the great achievements of humans are because we aspire based on that spark of God within the human race, which is justice, peace. All the nice things that we did as humans, and we do as humans, are a consequence of the fact that we are humans. We're not animals. Animals don't have that ability. We have logic. We have seichel. We have the ability to grow. And that was given to us. And there's a purpose in humans. And that is what humans are supposed to do. They're simply supposed to be humans. Not more than that. So if you ask me, how do humans serve God? By being a human. By being a good human. You know what? You want to use another word? Enjoying life. What does it mean enjoying life? Enjoying life the way a human enjoys it, not the way an animal enjoys it. All the accomplishments and achievements that you'll find that people call godly achievements are really human achievements. They're just a good human and not an animal. Okay, you call that the God of humans because the humans are being better than just animal humans. Yeah, they're good. They're doing the best humans can be. But if I'd go to God's home, is that what he's doing? Being a good human? No, he created humans. That has nothing to do with him. A drummer can be a very good drummer. A human can be a very good human. A horse can be a very good horse. We are the best. Humans are the best they could be. Period. It has nothing to do with saying, you know what God wants from humans because you're a human, so you know what humans are. But don't tell me, you know what God. It's like, you have to you have to hear what he wants. You never heard what he wants. You have to hear him. You have to get to know him. You never got to know him. You're a human. There's a huge question that people ask. Let me demonstrate this with a historic fact. Abraham, the first Jew. What are the stories you ever heard about Abraham? Anybody? Which stories did you hear about him? Breaking the idols. Any other stories you heard about him? Anybody ever heard a story that he jumped into a fire? Yeah? Do you know none of these stories are related in the Torah? None of them? Nothing. Zero. The Torah does not talk about him breaking the idols. The Torah does not talk about the fact that he jumped into a fire. The first mention of Avram in the Torah was way after these stories. These are stories brought down in the Medrash commentaries. They're alluded to within the passages of the actual Torah. But it's not mentioned in the Torah. Why? Greatness of Avram. He got to know God. He broke the idols. He even jumped into a fire. I mean, what's better than that? That's basically the ultimate Jew. And you know what? The first story mentioned about Avram is Hashem, the beginning of Parshas Lech Lecha, the third parsha in the Torah. Hashem told Avram, go away from your land, go to a place where I'm going to show you, go to a certain place. And that's the first story about Avram, way after all this great stuff that he accomplished. You know what the idea here is? Jew equals somehow God. That's only if God gets to know you. Not when you try to do your best to be a good human. Avram was a good human until the moment God told him what he likes. Until the moment God spoke to him, he was simply a good human. Good humans, part of being a good human is recognizing there's a creator. That's part of being a good human. He did everything good humans do. He understood. He tried his best. He was the ultimate human. The moment God told him what to do and made him his messenger to go and do something, now you have a relationship with someone. He came over to you and he told you what to do. You're in touch with him. You can only be in touch with someone when they initiate. You can't guess. Sometimes you could be with someone in a room. You could have a roommate for years and you don't know who they are. Like you really didn't really click and didn't really get to know them because they never opened up to you. And sometimes you can sit with someone for an hour and you leave like, wow, I really got to know them. So it has to do with time. It has to do with only one component. If the person sitting in front of you is going to, hold their arms like this and have some kind of, coldness and reserved nature, you can sit with them for a year, maybe even a lifetime. You're never going to get to know them. You don't really get to know them. He opened up. Now you got to know him. The moment God opens up, that's the moment you get to know him. Otherwise, you're a human. And that's what I want to talk about. The difference between a Jew and a non-Jew is the moment is not dependent on us. It's dependent on what Hashem decided to give us. What's the difference between seeing something or hearing about something? Imagine I told you there's a building that's lopsided. It's standing for years and it's not falling. And you look at me and you say, well, where's that standing? It doesn't make sense. Based on the earth, under it, or based on circumstances. But if you saw it, you saw it. If I tell you a story versus when you see it, you know what the difference is? When I tell you, you have to try to find yourself and connect yourself to a story. When you see it, the story connects with you. It's all there. When you're trying to connect to someone reserved, there's a wall. You have to penetrate that wall. That's a difficult journey and probably unsuccessful unless the person will actually open up to you. The person opens up, you get to know them. The difference between a Jew and a non-Jew is that the Jewish people, Hashem decided to make them his messenger. Whatever that means, and we'll get to that. But it has nothing to do with what we can accomplish. We're a human, just like any other human. But Hashem gave us something. And that something, compare it to the moment Abraham became a messenger of God. What's the difference between a messenger and an employee? Or maybe a representative of a country and an employee of a company. An employee of a company is based on a job. A representative is an identity. An employee goes home and he can go to any bar he wants. A representative has to think twice. He's representing someone. No matter what he does in life, his whole life is connected and tied to this new identity. An identity is a lot more than a time and space and certain geographic location. An identity takes you, it swallows you up. An identity is who you are. When you become a messenger for someone, I don't know if the messenger is the right word, I use the word representative as in like an ambassador, or even an ambassador today is not really an identity, but it's the most you can get to an identity, because if they're going to do anything private, they're still, in a sense, tied up to the country they represent, and they have to be careful even in private affairs that they do, because, oh, this is the representative of this country, that he did it. Oh, it shows in the country, right? More than an employee of a company, which is just an employee. You're not going to, if an Apple employee is going to be found stealing, you're not going to say, oh, Apple steals. But if you find the representative of Israel stealing, oh, these are what the Israelis are all about, right? That's how it works. That's just the nature of the beast, right? The nature of representatives and identity. And identity is not something that I can't say, I'm a representative of Israel. Who said? Who made you a representative? Oh, if you're appointed, you become a representative. I'm the same person as anybody else before I was appointed. The moment I'm appointed, now I become a different identity. It doesn't make me better. It gives me a responsibility. It doesn't make me better. It's simply a responsibility. You have to know what that responsibility is. And I can sometimes, the difference between becoming a representative and a Jew is that a Jew is actually born with it, and that spark of God. So now let's go to the Jewish representative. Let me explain how the Jewish representative works. First, let me summarize what we said until now, so we're on the same page. And I'll show you in the paper that we have in front of us, so like this we can review the few pointers, and then we go into what a Jew is. The first point we had over here is pushing versus the impossible. Brought out how it's impossible to really connect to someone. It's impossible to really get to connect to someone. So I gave a few examples. Jumping down a wall versus jumping up a wall. A monkey versus a human. Horses and hay. Another example is people say you're not in my world. What does it mean you're not in my world? You don't connect to me. Man and women, in the sense of the drums, whatever you want. The idea is there's a gap. There's a real gap. Humans are meant to be humans. So there's another example that I didn't mention, which is, let's say two people are dating. So you can beautify yourself before you go out for a date. The only time you go into a relationship, that's like the same idea of the reserved person versus the open person, is if the other person decides to be open with you and actually engage with you. Otherwise, you're simply beautifying yourself and you're being yourself. You're not in a relationship until the other person decides to be open and come into a relationship with you. You can do the best you can, but there's no relationship until the guy decides it's a relationship. We're supposed to do our best, but we're still humans. We're part of creation. So there's no relationship with God. The 7 mitzvahs are beautifying ourselves. They're basically, in the 3 pointers I have under that, mankind ought to personify the human race. But humans are humans. What are the Jewish mitzvahs? God is saying, here's what I like. This is how to get to know me. That's what the Jewish mitzvahs are. This is not about beautifying yourself. Now he's talking to you. Now you're in a relationship. Because why? Because he made you. He decided to come into a relationship with you. He decided that. Mitzvahs are connectors. They form a relationship. So how can a human relate to Hashem? So here's where we get to the point that we start off with. There's a spark of God within the creation versus the spark itself. And this is how we get to blind faith versus the inner spark. What's blind faith? Blind faith means it's not me. But if I'm the representative of a country, if I now into a relationship, and that relationship is really part of me, so now the question is, how do I connect to who I am? Rather than, imagine there's an Israeli ambassador. Let me give an example of it. I want to note 2 things. People have a hard time with this before I continue. Because it's a little bit sounds like you're a racist in a sense. Right? I'm treading on a line that can have a connotation of racism, right? That's what it seems. What? For sure. Right? It's very easily translated that way. And it's probably going through your mind right now. If I can read your mind, perhaps I have that, hidden talent. And what's the answer to that? What does that really mean? What does it mean that the Jews have a different identity than a non-Jew? What does that really mean? The question anybody had here? No question like that? You don't have a question? You don't have the question? Huh?
Is it like saying we have a different responsibility?
Hashem created a world. Just like humans. What? Hey, ask. Don't be embarrassed. Don't be shy. Don't be shy. Please don't be shy. Hammer away.
Well, humans.
Yeah.
Even anything, any creation has to have a piece of God in it to some level.
Very good.
A human has to have it.
Very good.
So what's that little chip or whatever different between? What is it?
What does it mean, a piece of God in the creation? Let me give an example, but bear with me. With the example, the example has flaws, but I want to highlight something of this example that's going to address. Every example has. You have to tread a very careful line in the sense of highlighting a virtue without in any way putting down other virtues. Okay, so let me give you an example. Imagine you have a company. And you have a purpose, okay? Steve Jobs, right? He started a company. He had a vision, and till when he died, they were afraid that the innovations of Apple would stop. Right? People thought that. Why? Not every company do people think that. Why only in Apple that people have that feeling? Oh no, the magic of Apple is going to disappear. He appointed sparks of Steve within the company. You had the managers, and you had the super managers, and the directors, and the board. You had so many things going on up there. Why do you think Apple won't be there when you have the sparks of Steve in the whole company? Because there's a difference between the one who creates, who initiated, who innovated, who foresaw, who had a vision, who every one of these sparks of Steve in the company never imagined what he could accomplish and what they were given the task to oversee. But he did. So he's the creator of that whole company. Who knows what else he's going to come up with, right? We have that who knows within the creator of a company, of a real innovator. So that the sparks of Steve in the company are part of a company. They're part of creation. They have a purpose, and that's who they are. They're not creators. They have the same query about Steve Jobs. Who is this guy? What's he going to do next? They have the same anticipation, the same surprise when he's going to make that demonstration of the new iPad, a new iPod, a new Schmipod, whatever they're going to come up with, right? Every one of the new things he comes out, they have the same surprise as everyone else who's not an employee. So they're still part of the creation. They're still surprised by his innovative ideas. He, and only he, has that innovative mind of coming up with something so out of the box that everybody's flabbergasted when he comes up on stage and he unveils this new product, including his own sparks within his company. You're part of the creation. Humans can have a spark of God, but that spark is part of creation. What does it mean, spark of God? Spark of God in English means purpose. It means mission. It means you're not there by chance. There's a purpose. There's a design. And that design is to be a human. That design is to be a good human. Nothing more than that. God wants that the creation should be a good creation. That's it. As far as the creation is concerned. But then you have to ask yourself, well, what does he want with that whole company? What's his vision? The vision department? He has a vision. That's Steve himself. That's Steve himself. He has that vision. Maybe he shared that vision with some people, right? The creation of the world that we live in, there's a purpose to the world, and then there's the world itself. There's a purpose of the world in the sense of the world not being a place of chaos, not being stoim va'amora, right? The story in Chumash that people were animals. That's like the ultimate human animal. I mean, you don't have to go to stay money. Go look at ISIS and you see what the human animals are like, right? You look today around, and you don't have to look too far to find out what a human animal can be. Hashem wanted humans to be able to become a human. But then what? Is he just bored and he decided to create humans to become humans? He had another purpose. Steve created a company, right? He had everybody in their own department. I'm just giving the Steve because he's someone that there's like a magic feeling around him in a sense of surprise of what he's going to come up with. So that's why I'm giving it. I'm not comparing him to God in any way, but I'm just using that example because they're very good marketers, and that's the feeling they gave people, that he's like God. So that's why I use that example. But I'm not in any way saying he's God. So don't quote me on that. So anyway, so the idea behind him is like, what did he do? He created a company, right? But his vision, he wants to change the world. He really had a vision to change the world. His company that he set in place, he had a person in every job, in every, department. But his vision to change the world was his vision. That was never given. No one had it. No one could have it. Now, no one, right? So there's a clear distinction between, no, and Hashem created this world. Who's the Steve Jobs in this world to fulfill that mission? That's the Jewish people. The Jewish people, and there's the superintendents. The non-Jews were given a job to make sure the world is the ultimate human. To make sure the world is perfected. The United Nations is essentially the job of mankind, the way it should be. To make a perfect world, justice, peace, all of these things. The Jewish people had a different role. There was a different role to bring the world to God. Different role, different thing. And there's like all these, and there's a certain aura of what do they want to do? What is it? That's a different thing. Yeah, it's true. We are different. Racism is not about being different. Racism is about being better, not even better. It's about putting down others. Different. We live in a society where the word different is you're not allowed to say the word different. Women are different than men. They have different feelings. Children are different than adults. Everybody is born to have different feelings. I mean, you can't be. There are differences, but it doesn't. That difference doesn't make you less entitled to something. It just makes you to be who you are.
That's the problem with feminism.
That is a problem with any kind of ism. Any kind of ism is looking to communism. It's the same thing. Any kind of ism is looking to make people what they're not. They're looking to not let you be the best you are. They want you to be the best they think the world should be. And that's it's actually it's not rights. You're actually squashing rights by doing that. So Judaism is actually an ism, but it's not. That's why it's not Judaism. It's Jews. The whole Judaism thing it shouldn't be there. There's Jews. The non-Jews are the ones that say this. If you look, just for the sake of, who are the ones that say racism? The Jews. The non-Jews are the ones that say, aren't you supposed to be a light unto the nations? Aren't you supposed to be? That's what they tell us. And we're the ones, no, I'm not. I'm equal rights. I'm just like everyone else. We're the ones saying that to ourselves. Everyone else is saying you are different. For 2,000 years they're telling us we're different. And there's a reason why they're telling us we're different, because we are different. We're the ones saying, no, we're not different. And then it doesn't work because we keep on being different and we keep on showing that we're different. And there are different ways to show that we're different. I'm not going in today to say what that definition of Jew is. Right? So how does that godly thing play out? What I do want to say is that's the difference between blind faith and regular faith. The Jewish faith is not blind. Jewish faith is essentially that spark of God within us has a consequence in our psyche. You know what that consequence is? Jewish guilt, the inner faith that we had that expresses itself in ways that are not understood. I gave an example last time, and I like this example. If I would pick a mitzvah and I would say 90%, I gave this example last time, of 90% of Jews do this mitzvah, right? I was thinking about this. It really hit me. It didn't make sense to me when I was thinking of which mitzvahs. And this specific mitzvah, bris milah, circumcision. 90% of Jews circumcise their children. Can you explain to me why they picked this mitzvah? It's a bloody mitzvah. If you want to pick a mitzvah for all the Jews to do, something beautiful and godly, maybe put flowers on your table Friday night. Light the candles. That's a beautiful thing to do. It's spiritual. Have 90% of people have the same enthusiasm for the candles? No, the bris milah. Even those who don't identify with the ism of Judaism, right? They do the bris milah. Why? Because bris milah is called a bond. It's one of those mitzvahs where Hashem says, He's the one that spoke. That's what He told Avraham. The first encounter and experience that Avraham had with God, do the bris milah for me. That's what I like. You're finally talking to the lady and she's saying, give me flowers, not drums. You're finally talking to the horses. Well, not the horses don't really get it, right? But you're finally talking to the person who's reserved. He's finally opening up and telling you, this is what I like. That first mitzvah was the milah. And He gave it to us together to bond us together. So there are certain expressions of that inner spark that we have that express themselves in our subconscious mind. And the challenge is channeling it into our conscious mind. But it's not outside of us. There are three realms. There are certain things that are simply not us. There are certain things that are subconsciousness. And there are certain things that are in our consciousness. Very many times people get confused between things that are not you and things that are subconsciously you. Blind faith is something that's not you. Jewish faith is the subconsciousness of a Jew. And it expresses itself in our conscious mode in different behavior patterns that we have that we can't explain. Like, why did I do that? The non-Jewish world calls it Jewish guilt. I think that's probably one of the ways that they somehow identify this Jewish thing. But it's something there. It's called the Jewish subconsciousness. Emunah, belief in Kabbalah, the way it's explained, in Chassidus, the way it's explained, is the subconsciousness, the identity of someone. You know, many times you could come from a family. There are certain virtues that you can see in every child of the family. You can see that in many families. Certain virtues, even if you try not to have that virtue, but you have it. Every child in that family has that virtue. It's part of your DNA. There's something in a Jew. Not to be better, but there's something there. And that is the difference between a Jew and a non-Jew. It's not blind faith. It's the subconscious. Let me show you inside the last few pointers. So we're up to number 4. So number 4, we started explaining the difference between a spark of God within creation versus the spark itself. Or the example I gave of Steve Jobs in the sense of the magic around him versus the company he created. I call it blind faith versus the inner spark. And again, there's a difference between the inner spark of creation or the inner spark of the creator. The Jewish people have a unique soul. The soul experienced God. I mean to say it's the experience of soul means soul is the same thing as saying feeling. It's the same thing as saying feeling, experience, right? That's what a soul of something represents. When Hashem had the encounter with Avram, that was an experience. He actually didn't just have an encounter, he changed Avram in that moment. It's like when a person says, from the moment I saw that, I changed. From the moment I saw that, I couldn't think differently. I just was a different person. Seeing something is an experience that can change, transform a person, because something else just came into you. The Jewish people had something else that came into them, whatever that means. But there was an experience that created it. It didn't come from our own initiative. Yeah.
That experience, that feeling,
Yeah.
validating, like that's the God. I mean, that's that connection. Basically, we're saying,
Yeah.
the difference between the Jew.
The difference between a Jew.
The difference between a relationship, but one is a story, but when it's in front of you, you see it. So and then you were trying to explain that's how it is with the Jew.
That it's an actual. It's
Yeah,
the
feeling and all that stuff. That's the proof.
That is this feeling and soul that Hashem put into us is why when we connect, we actually connect with Him. You know what a mitzvah is?
In some level, it's still really not tangible. It's also hard to comprehend, but just that feeling. That
let me demonstrate this another way. You know what a mitzvah is? A mitzvah is 613 mitzvah like a body, hands, feet, right? When you like someone, what do you want to do? You want to hug them, right? You want to hug them. You want somebody to do? You want to give them praise. Well, how does a Jew express their love to Hashem? They want to do a mitzvah of milah. They basically want to hug. They're basically saying, I want to hug you. A non-Jew doesn't want to hug. He wants peace, justice. He wants to be a human. A Jew wants to hug. How did that happen? Where'd that come from? Why do you want to hug and you want peace?
Right, I understand.
That's because we have something else.
Never really, like you said, it's two people.
Oh, so now the job.
It's still something we can't really.
Very good, very good. Now the job is, and that's exactly what this is the third sequence in this course. The job is, how do you make the belief into a perspective? How do you take this belief, which is the subconsciousness of a Jew, we call that in Hebrew emunah, and how do we bring that into yidi'ah, into understanding? The whole idea of Chassidus is that the emunah, the belief, the subconscious reality of a Jew should not just stay as some out-of-touch subconsciousness, but it should become within you, and you should be in touch with your subconsciousness. So that is the job of it, and that takes effort on the conscious mode, which is there's thought that has to go into it. There's a lot of challenging common knowledge, certain things we don't even think. This is just how it is. You have to challenge a lot of those. What do you mean? That's how the world works. You got to challenge a lot of those self-proclaimed facts in order to weaken them and say, hey, I can actually see things differently. Oh, and that is actually the feeling that I had in the beginning. Oh, now I'm in sync. So you have to challenge your conscious mode in order to allow your subconscious mode to become in sync with your conscious mode. And really, the problems and challenges we have, the questions we have, are essentially us asking those questions to get in sync with our subconscious mode. That's exactly why we called books, the people of the book, we ask questions, because that's what we're trying to do. We're actually trying to do that. We're asking questions all the time because we're not happy with the conscious mode we're in. A non-Jew is very happy. They say a joke. Let's finish with a nice little joke. The boss goes over to his secretary. I must want to, it's not a joke. There was a boss that I know in a company, used to give a class there. He says he only has non-Jewish secretaries. I said, why? He's a Jewish secretary. I told him, make me a coffee. I told her, 2 spoons of sugar. No, sugar's not good for you. Only have 1 spoon of sugar. Coffee, only once a day. The non-Jew doesn't ask questions. She just takes 3 cups, 3 things. The Jewish people love making you crazy. That's just part of the Jewish people. It's just part of how it's part of the DNA. It seems like it was there because we're not happy in our conscious mode. And we're constantly seeking to connect to something deeper. So yeah, you're right. That's the challenge that we have. The more we challenge the conscious mode, the more we have the ability to sync with our subconscious mode and make the emunah, the subconsciousness, into a reality, into a perspective. That's why I named this class Perspective Change, because each class takes another layer, ships another layer of perspective. We just shipped one little layer. which is the subconsciousness. We didn't hit the conscious yet. As we go on within the sequence of all these classes, we're going to chip another layer of perspective. I just said in the beginning of the class that it's a contradiction between nature and miracles. Now we chipped on it a little bit. Is it really a contradiction or not? We're chipping. It takes time to change a conscious mode of thinking. We'll finish with that. Any other questions? No? So do we have blind faith or not?